Shalom everyone, and we have today the study of Hanukkah, the special holiday that all what you need to connect to it is light a candle. So what is Hanukkah? The origin for that we have in the Talmud, Babylonian Talmud, Talmud Bavli, Tractate Shabbat, page 21b. The Tanu Rabbanan, so our sages taught us, that on the 25th day of the Hebrew month of Kislev, we celebrate 8 days of Hanukkah. And these days we're not supposed to mourn and not to have eulogies and not to fast, because when the Greeks came into the temple, they defiled all the oils in the temple. And finally, when the Hashmonaim got stronger and won, they found out, and they found only one vial of oil that was not defiled, and it was still with the seal of the high priest. But in that vial, there was enough oil for 1 day only. And it was a miracle because that oil lasted for 8 days. The year later, they realized that this holiness is still around, so they declared those 8 days as special holy days, and we have special prayers of Hallel every morning of Hanukkah, and praise and we light the Chanukiot. So the question is, what was the fighting and who was fighting? And we can see how relevant it is for nowadays, because we can see the two opposite ideas. On one hand, it was Hellenism. There's kind of idealism of Hellenism, but Hellenism was a culture that was a European colonization of the world, and it started with Alexander the Great, that basically fought and won and took over the Persian Empire. And now we have to remember the Persian Empire was pluralistic, which means every nation, culture, religion in the Persian Empire had freedom of religion and freedom of ideas. And therefore, by the same idea, King Cyrus, who was the founder of the great empire, he gave the Jews the authority, the permit to rebuild their country. And that's how they created an autonomous province in the Persian Empire. And by this permit, finally, they built the second temple. At that time, remember, Jews were already living all around the Middle East. There were big Jewish communities in today's Iraq, in Persia, in Iran of today, in Syria, in Egypt, in Yemen, and so others, also in all the way till Tunisia. Now, those Jewish communities were living right now under the Hellenistic colonialism, but the Hellenistic colonialism was not that much pluralistic, especially later on, when they basically saw Judaism as an enemy, because we are talking about two worldviews so different from each other. Here we have idol worshiping, which is basically, if we learn about all the idols, it doesn't matter if it was like the Greek or the Babylonian, if it was the Egyptian or the Roman, the gods represented all the evil traits of a human being. The gods had no way to suppress their ego or their needs. They could take whatever they wanted from you. And that justified the kings who declared themselves as gods, that they also behave the same way. And that means that a little man or woman or child or in those empires had no rights whatsoever. Those, especially the Hellenistic civilization, was based on slave labor. And slave means you go into wars, you capture free human beings, you make them slaves, and your economy is built on slave labor. People that you don't give them any rights whatsoever, they're your possession. So Judaism was so different. Monotheism means that every human being has rights that are not negotiable. So here we have materialism, here we have spiritual consciousness. And what's a spiritual consciousness? That it's mind over matter, that the human mind is godly. And our job is to get closer to God, and nobody has the right to take our happiness because that's not aligned with God. And here we have a materialistic civilization. It's all about what you wear and where you live and what you spend and how many slaves you have and the physical power. That was the opposite. Oh yes, well, I can't say that all the Jews were really righteous, but as a society, it was a totally different society. The Hellenistic philosophy was based on rationalism, which meant if you cannot measure it, it doesn't exist. And here we have a totally different idea in Judaism, that whatever you see is very small, minute shadow of the real reality. The tree of life consciousness, which means the body is only a cover for the soul. Without the soul, the body is meaningless. So therefore, if it's only what you see, then comes the body and its pleasures. That's what you worship. While in Judaism, is exactly the opposite. You have to control the whims, the desires, the urges of the body, because the soul desires are much higher than that. And that's why you have to cover the body, and you have to cover its desires and the whims, and you need, and if you control them, and you're not just suppressing them, you transform them, you can achieve happiness. But if your body takes over, you're in darkness because you're not connected to godliness. You're not connected to the source of true happiness. That happiness is not coming from property, from the body, from food. Happiness can come only, true lasting happiness, only from connecting to the light of the Creator. So here we have egotism, individualism, ambition and power by any means. And here we have altruism as a way to connect to the Creator. Here we have the great idea is living a life that is purifying the body, the mind, so you can create to godliness and project it to others. And that in return will give you eternal pleasure, spiritual pleasure. Here we have material growth, and here the growth is by spiritual wisdom and transformation. And here we have colonialism, and while the Jews never thought that they have the right to take somebody else's country, land, properties, this is unheard of, impossible. Therefore, if you realize that the Jewish society in Israel at that time was basically a mainly middle class, big middle class. Everybody knew how to read and write from the age of 3 years old, okay? And everybody was learning. Yes, you had a family business. Everything was around family businesses. People had the freedom. People had the consciousness of achievement, but not using somebody else for that. And here you had colonialism with middle class system, and there were, sooner or later it had to explode. So yes, the Jews won against the Greeks, and then came the Romans, and the Romans won, but the Romans lost because there's no Rome yet anymore, but there is Jerusalem. Jerusalem came back, and there is the spiritual Jerusalem that is an inspiration for the whole world, for ideas and values that basically, little by little, make the world better. Yes, there is materialism. Yes, individualism. However, you cannot throw people and animals into the Colosseum anymore and watch them killing each other. That's illegal. Okay, you cannot enslave people by law. You can still do it, but officially this is illegal in most countries around the world. So the Roman historian said, Tacitus said, they, the Jews, regard as profane everything that we hold sacred, and vice versa. So there was a clash, and the clash had to happen. And the clash is still happening because the Hellenism inside us, the body consciousness, is still taking its toll. Living in a society that is so materialistic that you define yourself by the clothes that you wear, the cars that you drive. It's all about branding with artificial brands. Well, in Judaism, the branding is with, what kind of a person you created out of yourself. What kind of values do you project and you represent in your day-to-day behavior? Still, there is a big conflict. The war is still going inside. And not that you think that all the Jews were really spiritual. A lot of the Jews became Hellenized, and they were called Mityavnim, which means they like the good life, and they like that idea that you don't have to commit to great values of controlling your body in order to be there for others and to grow daily, and especially not to blame others. That stuff. So the war was, according to the basic Jewish narrative, the war won because of Kiddush Hashem. What does it mean, Kiddush Hashem? Kiddush Hashem is basically what is called wrongly, but that's a word in English, martyrdom. But it's not, martyrdom is not Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem means to sanctify physicality. And that means, in Kabbalistic language, transforming Malchut into desire to receive light, not physically, not physicality, in order to share. Kiddush Hashem is when a person overcomes his bodily needs, transcends, and transforms his desire for a better world into a desire for connection to spiritual light. In that moment that you control, overpower, and transform your body needs into something much higher, you basically sanctified your body, you sanctified your soul, you sanctified your desire. You took your inner desire for betterment, for improvement, and you elevated it, knowing that having more cars and more money in the bank, or have more money in more real estate, is not going to make you a better person. Yes, you can do it, but don't expect that to make you a better person. What will make you a better person is when you turn your body into God's sanction, holy sanctuary, which means when you basically commit and take the vow of commitment to serve the values of godliness, which means love, sharing, helping others, being there for others. It's not removing your desires, which means you're not supposed to remove your desire to make money, for career, to make a to make a statement. No, you're not giving that up. You transform it, that it will be only when it's aligned with godliness, with love, with justice, with values that are bigger than life. And so therefore, all what Judaism was and is all about is about that thing, which means owning property is not bad. Okay, but if you own it just for your selfish reasons, that's bad. If you own properties and you use it for making it a better place for other people and hosting people and enjoying other people and feeding other people, or the same thing with everything else you do. Same thing with your body. You use your body, your healthy body, just to enlarge your giving and your creativity. This is what we're talking about. But the moment that you realize that you cannot use your body anymore to be a sanction for the light of God, then you don't need a body anymore, and you're willing happily to give it up. So when the Greeks forbid and may outlawed any Jewish ritual, no Shabbat, no Brit Milah, no circumcision, no kosher food, all of that, and the Jews started simply to give them up. It's like, okay, so kill us. I don't need this body. If I can use my body only to eat and feed, what am I, a beast? I'm not a beast. The only reason I need a body is to transform it to become a sanctuary for my soul. And when you do that, and you can see it along Jewish history, Jews were willing to go to the to die just like this, because the body by itself is just a shell. There's no importance to the body unless you can use it for godliness. And that's the basic understanding of what is a miracle. We have to understand that the word for miracle in Hebrew is nes. And nes is coming, according to Psalms, lanus velitnoses, to flee up and above, which means outside the box. The body consciousness has only 7 directions. As we learned, you can go either to the right or to the left, forwards or backwards, up and down, and the most important of them all, me. It's all about me. 7. Getting outside the box. This is the miracle, which means being able to inject another dimension, the heavens, in everything you do, the smallest, like the food you eat. It could be snacks, it could be a little sandwich, it could be a big meal. To have a blessing, to have an awareness that there's spiritual light in everything you do. In everything you create, you buy, you sell. There are always rules that of honesty and spirituality around them. When you get out of the box, that is a miracle. When you bring in values that are not just physical, they are values that are bigger than life. So, we'll come to it. The sages are saying that Hanukkah was there from the beginning. It just came out the moment we needed it. Because if you go to Genesis chapter 1, and you start to count the words of Genesis chapter 1, the 25th word is light, or. Okay? And Hanukkah is being celebrated on the 25th of Kislev. And that's a holiday of lights. Hashmonah was the name of the family of the Kohanim who led the revolt and finally brought for the victory. When we're talking in the book of, when we're reading the book of the Numbers, just the last parasha, Mas'eh, and in that parasha that 42 travels in the desert that the Israelites made. The 25th journey was to Hashmonah. Remember, Hashmonah was the name of the priest family that led the revolt. In Parashat Emor, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 24, there's a list of all the holidays to be celebrated. The biblical holidays, they start with Passover, then it goes to Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah is the last one. The next verse after the holiday of Simchat Torah is the lighting of the menorah with pure olive oil. You read that in Leviticus 24, verses 2 to 4. Why after Simchat Torah? We know that today, in today's Jewish calendar, you have the next holiday after Simchat Torah is Hanukkah, which is the holiday of the menorah, lighting the menorah with pure olive oil. And that's exactly the sequence in Parashat Emor. This is in the 5 books of Moses. We're talking about thousands of years earlier. So just to show that nothing is new under the sun, we just have to reveal the solutions, because the solutions are waiting there even before we have the problem arising. Okay. However, here comes Rabbi Isaac Luria in his book, The Gates of Kavanot, and he says over there, The Gates of Meditation, that Matityahu was the father of the priestly family, the Hashmonaim, or the Maccabees. Okay, the Maccabees was the nickname. The original name was Hashmonaim. Okay, but the leader of the Matityahu, the Kohen, was Matityahu. He says, what's the Rabbi Isaac Luria is saying? He corrected Sefirat Hod. He made a tikkun of Sefirat Hod. That's the whole story of Hanukkah. That correction stayed forever. We can tap into it every year during the holiday of Hanukkah. How do we tap to it, and what does it mean he corrected the Hod? So let us see. Here we read the words of the great Kabbalist Rabbi Nissim Peretz of blessed memory. He says, לאחר תיקון ההוד על ידי מתתיהו בן יוחנן כהן גדול ובניו. After Matityahu, the son of Yochanan the high priest, and his sons, after that tikkun, we know that usually the Hod, Sfirat Hod, which is also in another word in Kabbalistic terminology, is the left column of the lower triangle, which is a very low level in the tree of life. Usually when physical human beings, mortal, mess it up, that's where the mess hurts the tree of life, in that what is called Sefirat Hod. In the secret of the book of Lamentation, chapter 1, verse 13, Netanani shomema kol hayom dava. He left me desolated, in pain for the whole day. Dava, in pain, is the same letters as Sefirat Hod. And when the Hod is defected, then the Netzach, which is its sister Sephirah, is also blemished and does not shine brightly. However, in Hanukkah, because of the tikkun, because of the transforming the body into light, when so many people were willing to fight for their own freedom, giving up everything. And we know today that was the first revolt in history that was based on ideological, spiritual idea of real freedom. And we know since then so many nations achieved freedom only when people decided, you know, I better be dead than be a free human being. I won't be a slave because that does not mean life. A slave is not considered to have a human being because he has no free will, he has no control over his life. How can a slave that doesn't have any freedom become godly? And therefore, the Torah says a slave is exempt of all the mitzvot because you're somebody else's property. How can you be a creator? When nations are willing, and we could see that in the last few centuries, how people achieved freedom in one condition. They were willing to sacrifice the body or the pleasures or the comfort of the body in order to receive true, real freedom. And if I'm not free, you know, what do I need this body for? That was done during the time of Matityahu. Okay? And he continues, and more than that. אלא שכל אחד בביתו נעשה כהן גדול. But this time, the correction was done basically, finally it came out in the temple in Jerusalem, that on the 25th day of Kislev, the Maccabees retook the temple, cleaned it from all the idols, from all the idol worshiping that was done over there, and they relit the menorah in the temple. Okay? But today, every one of us can light his own candles at his own home and become the high priest of his own home, which means this is the real manifestation of freedom. I don't need the high priest to light for me the candles in the temple. I have to do it in my own home. And when we do that, we bring in, we bring in a huge, wonderful light that is nothing, no second to it. And that's what is called the treasured light. That is the light that we read in the beginning of Genesis, and God said, let there be light. It's not the light we know, because the physical light appears only on the fourth day, during the creation of the sun, the moon, and the stars. So what light, the sages are asking, what was the light in the beginning? That's called the treasured, hidden light. This is This is the light of the endless that appears in Genesis on the 25th word in the Torah. ושימש בו אדם הראשון למדוו שעות ומתגלה בלמדוו נרות החנוכה. And Adam used that light for 36 hours till he committed the sin. And we light 36 Hanukkah candles without the shamash. On the first day, 1 and shamash. Second day, 2 and shamash. If you add it up, 1 plus 2 plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you get 36. We light 36 candles of Hanukkah in the holiday of Hanukkah that correspond to the 36 hours Adam connected to that treasured light before the sin. Now it's treasured, and every time there's Hanukkah and we light the Hanukkah candles, we bring to our own home that endless light from Genesis. Okay, now let's go back. How do we do that? So we said that Matityahu corrected the Hod. Now, in the Tree of Life, Sefirat Hod is the 8th Sephirah from the top. Keter, Chochma, Bina, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod. Number 8. But this Hod is Hod of the direct light, which means when I say I desire, I want, and I want it now, and I want it for myself, that's called connecting to the light, but that's a direct light because the Creator never says no. He's endless. So whenever we really want something, we get it immediately. That's called direct light. The problem is with direct light that if you just connect to direct light, it will burn you up. How do you avoid the burning up? So you need, in order to avoid that, you need to build a vessel, and that's called returning light. Returning light means that all what you really, it's a paradox. You really want to be happy, you have to commit to make other people's life happy. When you really care for others genuinely, with an open heart, authentically, by the end of the day, you'll be maybe exhausted, but you'll be happy. You'll be so happy because when you care for others, you generate what is called a returning light. The direct light is coming from the Creator. Enjoying it directly has a problem. It's called the shame of receiving free meals. So how you can't receive that? That's against the rules, because then that's called addictions and all of that sort. You really want to have a vessel to receive that light. Just because you want it doesn't mean you can keep it. But if you are willing to share it, to commit to share it with others, that's called returning light. Returning light is the light that you want for yourself, and you commit to use it for others. This is the only real thing you create in your life that stays forever. That's the only true real estate. When you leave your body, when somebody dies, all what we got by direct light is lost. Is lost. All the real estate is lost. Nothing stays with you except from the returning light. The returning light is the only long-term lasting vessel to hold in spiritual light. When a person has a true sense of fulfillment, it's not because of the direct light, it's because of the returning light. The returning light allows the direct light to stay. So if you correct the Hod, which is the 8th sphere of the direct light, you basically turn it into Binah, which is the 8th sephirah of the returning light. Binah is really crucial for understanding life, for understanding spirituality. The number 8 in Hebrew is Shmone. But the letters Shmone are the same letters of the Hebrew word for neshama. It's the soul. The soul and Hebrew neshama, it's the same word. If you notice, it's the same letters as 8. What did we say? How many dimensions do we have in the physical reality? 7. Number 8 is the one above physical reality. Number 8 is that dimension of going up and high outside the box. When you create 8 sephirot of returning light, you reach Binah. You created the true, real miracle, the real one. And let's see how it's connected to what we're talking about. The Maharal Prague, one of the greatest Kabbalists ever, he was the chief rabbi of the city of Prague in Czechia in the 16th century. His teachings are great, and he mastered a lot of wisdom of Kabbalah. And he taught us that number 8 is a supernatural, which means always a supernatural is number 8, because it's the dimension. How do you move to another direction when the physical is 7? Okay, so, and the symbol for that is the candle. Let's see how. Okay, the candle, as I said, is the symbol for that. First of all, we read in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 27, Nishmat Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The human soul is God's candle. We said that the word neshama, shmone, and here we see that the human soul is also a candle. What's a candle? What's so special about candles? Okay, so when Kabbalistically, one of the big secrets is that when the creation happened, and all the souls were created as vessels to receive God's light and pleasure. That's chapter 1 in Genesis, the first five verses. And there was a night, there was a day, one day. Everything was there, all the light was there, all the vessels, all the souls were there. The vessels, the souls were fulfilled with God's light, and everything was complete. However, because God gave us everything, he gave us himself, because he's endless. And we were imbued, impressed with that desire to be a creator. But you cannot be a creator when everything is given to you. There's no darkness, so you can create light in it. There's nobody that is a need that you can fulfill that need. There's nothing to create. Everything is created already and available. So we pushed away the light and darkness of being created. And when the light wanted to come back to the souls, it could not. Why? Because there's a law of affinity. Now that the soul is empty, so you have empty vessel on one hand, you have endless light on the other hand, and you cannot bridge between the two. The moment the souls get fulfilled, high and by. It's like a short circuit. So there was a need to create a second tzimtzum, a second contraction, in which the body, the souls were minimizing themselves so they can receive connection, which is called to Bina. Bina is about sharing. So now, because there's in this world, nothing gets lost, everything stays, all in all those levels of evolution. So now we have two kinds of vessels. One is the vessel of the original vessel, which means I desire. That vessel is the body. It's a judgment, selfish desire. I want because I want. I desire because I desire. I don't care about anything. I want it and I want it now. Okay? And I don't want to give anything for it. Like, give me a break. Give it to me and let me enjoy without the headache. That's the body desire. We know if we let the body urges to control us, which means eat whatever we want, whenever we want, sleep as long as we want, whenever we want, everything else, say whatever we feel like, react the way we want, will destroy our lives sooner or later. This is letting the body control. The soul, on the other hand, is Tzimtzum Bet. It's a second Tzimtzum. This is a new vessel that is a mixture. It's a merging of the desire to receive of the vessel, Malchut, together with desire to share, which is Bina. The soul is Malchut and Bina. The soul is that inner need to get outside the box, to be there for others, and at the same time sanctify the body, till the body can be aligned with the soul, and then the redemption can arrive. Okay? There are three ways in the spiritual realm to create that sweetening, which means the merging of light and vessel. The light of chesed, giving and sharing and loving, that you can see on the right column, okay? This one is the name of God, Youdkevitch, the Tetragrammaton, okay? And on the middle column, this is the vessel. These are the names of God that represent the judgment side, the Gevua, the vessel side. So you have the name Aleph Ke Yud Ke, Elokim, and Adnut. When you merge all three levels, when you merge the first level, Tetragrammaton with Shem Aleph Ke Yud Ke, you get 47. Number 47. Every Hebrew word letter is a number. When you merge Youdkevitch with Elokim, you get 112. Youdkevitch and Adnut is 91. Altogether, 250, which equals Ner, a candle. The candle is a physical phenomenon that represents the merging between the physical and the spiritual. Shabbat is coming in. You know, in every Jewish community, they publish the moment of Shabbat entering. Nobody saw Shabbat entering, right? So how do you connect to Shabbat? You light Shabbat candles. Somebody's yahrzeit, anniversary day has come, and you have the desire to connect to their soul of a loved one. You don't see the soul, but you can light a candle, a memorial candle. Same thing with Hanukkah. We cannot see the eternal endless light, but we use a candle to bring that light into our reality. Okay? That's the whole story of the candle. It's a merging between the spirit and the body, between the eternal and the mundane world. That is the candle. That's a big secret. And this world is about the merging of the physical and the spiritual, the light and the vessel. And we read in the Zohar, Perush HaSulam, Parashat Vayechi, verse 179, וכת תאבים בני עלמא והעסקין בזכותה קמי קודשה בריחו, ועם הטבת וכסייה על בנין, כדין התקרא תשובה. מהי תשובה? דה תשובה דאמא. דטבת בקיומה דכדין תכתיב אם הבנים שמחה, אם הבנים ודאי. Translation. When the people of this world, they repent. Now, the word repentance is a little bit not exact, because the word teshuvah means reconnect. When the people of the world reconnect to godliness, what does it mean? They do a lot of good actions of charity, anything of actions that sanctify the body. And then Ima, the Holy Mother, which is Bina, Sefirat Bina. Sefirat Bina is when we connect to Bina, that's returning. Then the mother covers and protects the sons. Then Bina is called Teshuvah, reconnecting. Shoel velama nikret Teshuvah? And he's asking why Bina is called reconnecting. Because reconnecting to Bina means to reconnect to existence. As long as we are busy with branding ourselves with clothes and houses and cars and all kinds of artificial stuff, we are lost. We are not really alive. It's like it's empty, it's hollow, it's meaningless. You can see I met so many rich people, like beyond richness, so hollow, so lost, so neurotic. Why? Because the moment you're not doing teshuvah, you are lost. You're off the grid. Binah means reconnecting. Binah, remember, that's the 8th Sephirah. It means reconnecting to the grid of spiritual light. That means re-existing, re-establishing its existing. So a person can live a materialistic life and feel daily like, what am I doing over here? There's no meaning. I don't feel connected. Something is so fake over here. It's all fake. However, when we reconnect to Binah, that's the 8th level of returning light. That's getting out of the box. That's the 8th dimension. That's the ability to get out of my limitation of physical thinking and connecting to real, true faith and spirituality. Then Binah gives you protection, like mother protecting her children. Em habanim smecha, the mother of the sons is happy. That's Psalms 113:9. That's Binah, the mother of the sons. One of the famous stories of Hanukkah is about that woman. Her name was Hannah, and she had 7 sons, and they were took into captivity by the Greeks, and they were brought in front of the king, and the king said to the mother, if you do not worship our gods and eat pork, I will kill all 7 sons one by one in front of your eyes, and then I'll kill you. And the mother and the sons, so the story says, if we cannot live a spiritual life, we don't need to live. So go ahead, kill us. But there is a code over here. Chana in numerical value is 63, which is the number that symbolize Binah. The 7 sons are the 7 Sephirot below that when they suck nurture from Binah, they are called their 7 sons. And that's the 7 parts of the lower Sephirot that when they return, then you have a meaning, life. There's a meaning to money. You can give charity and build a home with that. You can do a lot of stuff with your body. As when it's connected to the 8th dimension, it will always be fulfilling. It will always be meaningful. It will always give you the feeling that you're doing something authentic, meaning. And then we go back to the Zohar, Parashat Metzorah, verse 20, 22. There's a whole article, but it says that Vesham Katuv Aleph Gdola. When we start the book of the Chronicles, it starts with Adam Shet Noach. Adam starts with Aleph. But in the book of Chronicles, Adam is written with a big capital Aleph. Ki Aleph Gdola, the big Aleph, is Binah. Shehi Shlemut HaKol. And Binah is the completion, the whole Shlemut. The journey of humanity is to find completion, to find inner peace. How do you say inner peace in Hebrew? Shalom. Shalom comes from Shalem. Binah, the connection to Binah, spirituality, true spirituality, overpowering the body and reconnecting it to the spiritual world. It's all about being a whole, being shalom. This is what this story is about, your real, true identity. As long as you did not reconnect, you don't really have an identity. You cannot define your identity with brand names of products and stuff like this that you bought, a precious neighborhood you bought, the real estate in it, and the places you spend your holidays. That's not branding. The real branding is shalom, shlemut. That's bina. That's connecting to the soul. This is all what Hanukkah is about. The whole thing was fake identity, materialistic, that has nothing to do with the soul, or true, holistic, spiritual identity that is reconnecting to the soul and to the grid of the tree of life. That is still, if you do not realize, this is still the battle till today between darkness and light. The light is basically for humility, modesty, honesty, values that are beyond logic, godly values, family, community, country, humanity, just being there to be for something higher than yourself and revealing that wholeness inside, or being a slave to all kinds of physical, materialistic, little things and big things inside, but they're never fulfilling. And you'll never be fulfilled. You'll always be a slave, an addiction to all kinds of drugs and whatever, you just name it. And then you have no identity. It looks like you have universal identity, but it's not universal. It's no identity. If you need brand names in order to brand yourself, you have no identity. And that's the fight till today. How do we connect to that? Lighting the Hanukkah. So we meditate that we use the olive oil or the wax, whatever candle we use, as the light of wisdom, which is the original godly light. And the wicks, it's a light of chasadim. It's again like direct light and returning light. Why is it? Because the size of the flame depends on the wick, not on the oil. You can have a whole big barrel of oil and one little tiny floating wick. Does the size of the barrel affect the size of the flame? Not at all. How much light of God is there in the universe? Endless. How much light burns in ourselves, in our soul, according to the light of chasadim, loving, caring, generosity towards others? That determines our light. Not how much we took or how much we own, is how much we use for others. All 8 candles have to be at the same height. You don't need to buy a candelabra. You can just stick them or put them on a straight line on a plate or something like this. Of course, it's much nicer if you have a candelabra to put them on. The 9th candle can be any level. You put it at the door, opposite to the mezuzah. If you don't have a mezuzah, you put it on the right side. Okay? You put it at the door, opposite to the mezuzah. Then it has to be low, between 3 to 10 handbreadths, which means the size of a hand, like 30 centimeters, between 25 centimeters to 80 centimeters height. Why low? We'll see later. You add the candles left to right, which means every night you add 1 candle. So on the first night, you light the candle that is on the far most left. Then on the second night, you add one candle to the right of it, and you light from right to left, which means the candle you add every night is the first one to be lit, and then you continue to light from right to left. Okay? Why does it have to be low? Because we need to bring the light down. So we have to be standing when we make the blessings, and then we take the shamash, the candle that we have in our hand, say the blessings, we bring it down and we meditate, concentrate to bring the eternal light down to this physical world. Where to? The low part, that's the Sfirat Netzach of the door, of the entrance. It's connected to the verse in Genesis 4:7, sin is crouching at your door. Where? On the left bottom side. And when it says the infant will play near the cobra's den, Isaiah 11:8, that's the opening to the cobra's den. We use already that awesome light that we draw in, we use it to directly into the cobra's den. What is that? That's the part of us that is materialistic, like the snake. What was a sin? Snake. Physical comes first. The body comes first. The body desires are the only ones. That's a snake. Now, on the mezuzah, if we are lighting it, so the Chanukiah is on the left bottom, mezuzah is the top right. On the mezuzah, in most mezuzahs, there is the name of God, Shin Daled Yud. That is a name for protection. But if you take each letter one step up in the order of the Hebrew alphabet, one letter above Shin is Taf. One letter above Dalet is A. One above Yud is Kaf. Kaf Taf is the 8th name of the 72 names. That's a name that we use to drive away negativity, and especially our own negativity. Now, the blessings themselves, it's a long story. It's not for today, but you can, in the video at the bottom, in the details of this video, you have links for more explanations about the meditations, and even you can print down the booklet with all the instructions of them and the meditations as you see over here. But it's all based on those principles we just learned. There are 3 blessings on the first night, and then 2 for the rest of the nights. The blessings, every word has a meaning. Baruch is bringing the light from Keter. Ata, that's a right column. Hashem, that's a center column. Okay? And when we come to Hashem, Adonai, okay, the first blessing, we meditate on these 2 names of God that together comes to 72 plus 161, Regel. That's a holiday, pilgrimage. Okay, so, and it's also the first, remember we had 3 meditations for the candle. The first top one, if you go back, was Youdkevitch, Aleph Ke Yudke. Okay, that's the first one. There are 3 of them, 1 for each blessing. Elokeinu is left, Melech HaOlam, Asher Kitshanu Mitzvotav V'tzivanu, Lehadlik, to light. Lehadlik is 180, which is a number of 72 plus 63 plus 45. Chokhmah, Binah, Ze'anpin, the 3 Sefirot, bring it down to 52 to Malchut. So to light means to bring down the upper lights to this physical world. Nail is a candle. So that's the 3 meditations for the candle. Hanukkah. Hanukkah is Chana. Chet, Nun, Hey, Chana. Okay, and Kafvav, when you write it with a Vav. So it Kafvav, Chana, Kafvav. Chana is Binah, Kafvav is Ze'anpin. And also La'adlik Ner Chanukah, initials is Nachal. Nachal is a river, but it's a holy name meaning again, bringing down the lights from above. That's, you can find it also in the 13 attributes. Okay, in the first blessing, you have 13 words corresponding to the 13 attributes. Okay, the second blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem. Okay, when we came to the name of God, then it's a second meditation, Youdkevitch Elokim. Elokeinu melech haolam she'asa, that's divided into two. She'a, again, she'asa, she'a, these letters, it's a numerical value, she'a, of 370, which is twice Aleph Lamed, Aleph Lamed. These are the meditations of the shofar to sweeten all judgments. That's why in Hanukkah you can sweeten all judgments. Nisim Lavotenu, so it's She'ah, then you have the Sa, is the name of God, which is judgment, sweetening the judgment. Nisim Lavotenu B'Yamim Bazman Hazeh. The third blessing that is being said only the first time, that's the third combination. Hashem is Youdkevitch Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'echianu v'kimanu v'gianu lazman hazeh. Then you have the singing, you have it all in the booklet. You can print it from the bottom in the information. Any questions? Because it's a long story and you have in the link more detailed explanations. Here it was just to give us the more, the idea. So lighting the Hanukkah, it's just enough to light the candles and thinking about bringing in the holy light into our lives, into our home, so we can really stick to our spirituality, to our soul, to our real 8th dimension of Binah, reconnecting to the tree of life, because that's the only solution to the ailments of each one of us in individual and to humanity in general. We need to be half an hour next to the Hanukkah, and therefore we don't have to eat, although it's a very common thing to eat, because, you know, by eating the Hanukkah traditional food, you keep people around the candles. But if you don't have a special Hanukkah food, that's not the most important. Lighting the candle is the issue, the only issue. Any questions? Okay, so have a happy Hanukkah.
I have a